From the psychographic transcript of the Lady Artemisia Melancholy, Siren of Misery Island, recorded as a part of an experiment at the behest of her contemporary, the thaumaturgist Leopold of the Cairn. On the beaches of Alexandria, a young man lays dying. As his life slips away, it is replaced in his heart by a clinging, crawling bitterness. With his final breath, he curses the name of the man he once revered, Napoleon. The sea will carry his body away, but his anguish will never leave that splendid shore. In a small flat in Surrey, two women are reading and discussing a new pamphlet by Malthus. They are dubious of certain claims espoused therein. Their tea is growing cold. A gentleman in Australia has come across some manner of unexpected animal, something like a beaver with a bill. Leopold, would you please stop talking? It is extremely difficult to concentrate with you talking. You know this is not how I normally do this, and oh, look, I've written all that down. I have written, Leopold, would you please stop talking? Right here, in your precious record. Do you understand how distracting it is? Thank you. In New York, two old men are being accused of sedition by their neighbor. He is threatening to report them to the authorities. The argument is heated, and violence is in the air. In a Swiss forest, a child has gotten lost. She is afraid, but not because she does not think she will find her way home. She fears that she has fallen into a fairy tale, and that there is some unwholesome thing lurking in those woods that is going to try to befriend her. She fears that it will latch onto her and follow her out into... Oh, good. Charles Nesbitt is here. No, please do come in, Charles. It's not as if this process is taxing my mental resources to their utmost limits. It's nothing at all to channel the inscrutable cultural unconscious whilst translating it from thought to word to written letter, all while being gaped at by a pair of harebrained occultists. Now may I continue? A sea captain, a Frenchman, stares out across the Atlantic. The deck rolls serenely beneath his feet. He suspects that one of his crew is hiding something from him, but his affection for the man prevents him from pushing the issue. In a darkened chamber that smells of cinnamon and herbs, a creature whose face and nature elude me has begun to grow hungry. It grows murderous. A craving has developed in its heart for carnage, fear, and chaos. It moves to the door. Fresh air rushes in, and light cascades across... Charles, why are you eating sunflower seeds in my drawing room?
Welcome to The Chimera, a role-playing adventure podcast. This week, we're playing through the season of summer in our game of the Deep Forest as we set the stage for Season 3. And, friends, the secret history of Salem is about to take some turns. But before we start, I'd like to thank the amazing Lydia Anderson for performing our intro this week. Lydia appears alongside Braden on the audio drama podcast Greater Boston, and is also an old friend of ours from college. You can listen to Greater Boston on the podcast app you're using right now, or find them on Twitter at @InGreaterBoston. Now, let's get started. So we're back in the Deep Forest.
Back in the Deep Forest, we had just completed the first of 4 seasons, the season of spring, taking us to roughly, in our somewhat fluid timeline, 1784. And do we need to do any more recap than that, or are we good to just jump in?
We should probably do a quick rundown of the big stuff that's in play.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in play. So the basic monster factions haven't changed enormously from the start of play. We still have our pack of werewolves, a mummy cult we're referring to as the Nesbits, although I believe Braden, in the Slack, you mentioned that their more technical term at this point might be the Church of Pragmatic Peace, which is a pretty rockin' name, I think. There's a powerful reclusive vampire who mostly lives alone, except when he shows up in town to draw strange sigils on people's doors, named Mr. Chamberlain. There is a fairy of a siren sort that lives on Big Misery Island. Oh, and there's also now a forest-type fairy far to the west of town. Just noting that, because I don't think we put that in the list of factions and groups. There is a coven of magi called the Sistren of the Bitter Well, who've been sort of split off and factionalized in a couple of different ways. They've moved around a little bit, but there's still a group of them in the greater Salem region. There's a family, the Foxglove family, which is now in at least its second, possibly third generation, that was formed when a member of the mummy cult and a member of the pack of werewolves who had been who by witnessing the trials, the executions rather, during the witch trials, had somehow their awareness of the Umbra had been skewed, so they were constantly seeing both the standard world, the waking world, and the Umbra at the same time. And they sort of split off, became a family, became their own faction unto themselves. That's the Foxgloves. And then there's another group of vampires who came over from the old country shortly after the witch trials, and are specifically some sort of thaumaturgical research crew. They haven't done a huge amount, so they may or may not still have gears turning in the background. To be determined, I suppose.
It looks like there's a faction missing too. The Black Hand, right?
I think those are the Nesbits now.
That's the one more name. Yeah, one more name for the Nesbits.
Oh, I thought that was like a different group of Nesbits though. And then the mummy that is their focal point.
The Black Hand is the name of the mummy who is currently directing operations for the Nesbits.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought it was just a sect of the Nesbits.
Yeah, it was a full-scale changeover. It wasn't a split off.
Yeah, it could be a little bit vague as to whether, it's the evolution of a faction or a totally new faction. It's a little bit...
If there's any dissent among the Salem Nesbits, they haven't done or said anything of note.
It hasn't been on screen anyway.
Right. And in terms of, more recent events, there's been the institution of some sort of a court system among the supernatural community of Greater Salem, which may or may not to some degree be associated with the Foxglove family at this point. They're definitely involved in the origin of it. And there's this recently introduced figure of the Old Man. Finn, was that your turn?
I believe so. He's one of the elders of the werewolf pack. But werewolves are immortal, so that's a thing to bear in mind.
Right, the werewolves are mortal, so that that character may already even have passed on or will.
Do werewolves generally have human lifespans, or do they live longer than the average human?
It's It's definitely flexible. I mean, they're magical, right? And
Right.
so there are a number of different things that could mess with their lifespan. They're also super violent, so there's a lot of reasons why they could die earlier than you might expect.
Right.
But kind of by default, they're one of the supernatural types that doesn't have a inherently extended life expectancy, right? Like vampires are theoretically immortal. Fairies, to a similar extent, but magi and werewolves have kind of naturally normal lifespans unless something is done to extend it. The other thing to think about with werewolves is that they're sort of inherently spiritual beings. So they might go on to a life in the spirit world after finishing out their existence in the mortal realm in sort of a different, like not necessarily exactly a conventional ghost, like they're haunting somebody, but more like an ancestor spirit kind of way. Anything else we want to note? I mean, there's a lot of stuff. We covered a lot of ground the last couple of turns.
I mean, I think a significant thing that might affect how people take their turns is the branch thing, because there's a open communication network now between the factions due to the kind of act of the forest fairy and the siren, right?
Right. So there is specifically some sort of, and as yet somewhat underexplored communication network involving the branches from the tree that the forest fairy introduced, also connecting with the siren of Big Misery Island, whose songs sometimes carry information from elsewhere in the world, right? So there's this opportunity for kind of the random flow of information pre-built in. Anything else we wanted to note before we start up again?
Probably we should quickly remember that there's a wild hunt that appears every so often, and that recently marched silently and peacefully through town in a very off-putting way. There was a Loch Ness style monster in the lake that was captured ? By one of the Foxglove clan and also paraded through town.
On parades.
And nothing has entirely followed up from that yet. And also a mysterious black cat appeared out of the Umbra.
Yes.
Those are the things I remember.
So apart from omens, things are in a pretty good place by the end of spring, and certainly 3 seasons will pass uneventfully.
Nothing could possibly go wrong.
There you go.
Well, I mean, the founding of the United States at this period of time is very peaceful and calm. There's no strife at all.
None whatsoever.
I can only imagine America will improve from here.
They call it the Great Experiment because it's under carefully controlled conditions.
So, Vin, you were the last turn, right?
I think so. I think I was.
So, continuing down the line, it'll be Casey next.
Yeah. And I think I have a project that completes on this turn, but I know that's not the first thing that happens.
It's the middle thing that happens. Let's just go to the videotape. And there's also, I just want to make sure we're on board with the outstanding projects.
Right.
Right. So there's this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So there. Oh, no. I think Casey, your project already completed. Isn't that right? What was the project?
There were 2. There was one that had completed, and then there was the attempt to close the rift in the Umbra, and I thought that was.
That's 6.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I misread. Yes. So there's starter project. Werewolves insist an attempt to use the book to fortify the gauntlet around Gallows Hill. That's a 6-turn one, and this is the 6th turn, so this will complete in the middle of this turn. But also, there's the action involving Jeremy Foxglove and the Terror of Wenham Lake that already happened because that was a 2-turn one. And the Nesbits build a tomb for the Black Hand, which is a 3-turn.
Which will be next turn.
1, 2. Yes, which will be next turn. Okay. So those are the outstanding projects. One that completes this turn and one that completes next. I just want to make sure we remember.
Yeah.
Don't lose track as we restart the turn order. Okay. Card. Casey. So this is the first card of summer. Your card is the King of Diamonds.
Oh, no.
No, it's only the I think it's only the Winter King that's bad, or I mean, bad.
Well,
Some definition of bad.
Well, this is definitely okay. So, hot summer days lead to anger and paranoia among the monsters. Choose one. Community leaders spend the week silencing dissent. This week ends immediately. Or the community leaps into frenzied action. Start a dangerous project.
Whoa.
For the purposes of our version of it, when it says week in the deep forest thing, does that mean 7 years?
Yeah,
I mean, it means turn.
Yeah, turn.
Yeah.
So it would just mean that like nothing else. If you ended the turn now, nothing else would happen. I don't know what that would do to the project. Would it just skip over to the next one?
I think it would mean projects would not advance,
Yeah.
which means that, yeah, it would happen on the next turn.
Yeah.
So I guess I will start a dangerous project, but now I need to think about what I want that to be. Okay, so let's see. We have the 3 projects that are kind of completing soonish. We have the weird bridge. Let's see if I've got different factions. All right, I'm gonna say that the Foxgloves by this time have become something between a family and a pack. So they sort of accept new members. You don't have to be born into the family. And really at this point, their only requirements for membership are kind of a philosophy that they want the members to ascribe to, which is fairly broad, but essentially they want anyone who joins them to believe that there should be equality for all monsters within Salem as far as upholding the judicial laws. So whether or not they're considered still like the founders of the judicial system, they're strongly in favor of maintaining and building a judicial system that keeps a balance among all the factions and treats all of them equally, although whether or not all the other factions would agree that they're treated equally or not is something else. And the other component is that they believe that the humans in Salem have a right to live their lives unmolested and unburdened by the knowledge of monsters. So they also think that it's important that the community keeps themselves relatively secret from humanity. And if you ascribe to those 2 things, then you're welcome to join the Foxgloves. But there is sort of, because one of the founding members was a werewolf, there's still kind of a little bit of a cultural emphasis on the beliefs and the teachings of the werewolf pack and werewolf ideals. And so there is an interest in creating a totem for the Foxgloves, and they want to make Mike a Foxglove their totem since he's died, but there's a belief that there's still, he's still strongly present within the Umbra. At least some of the members believe that. So that's a project that they're going to undertake, is they are sending essentially emissaries into the Umbra to try and locate Micah Foxglove and create a ritual that will bind him to the Foxglove pack.
That's good.
So I'm going to say, I think that that's going to be like a 2-turn project.
Sounds good.
Okay. And then as far as the project that should be ending, is that the next thing?
That would be the middle thing. Yep.
Okay. So this was a project to seal the kind of weekend gauntlet around Gallows Hill. And it's 6 turns. So what, like 6 times 7, whatever that math is, I can do it, but I'm not going to.
42
years. So they've been doing this for 42 years. The year that they started this project was a year of the Wild Hunt. And then about midway through, there was this, strange episode with the Wild Hunt coming through the middle of Salem. And then when they disappeared kind of back into the Umbra, they went through this area in Gallows Hill to disappear. And the year that it's expected that the sealing will be completed is another year of the Wild Hunt. And so the sealing goes relatively successfully in that there's definitely a little bit of a scar remaining, but the kind of weakness is gone. But because the Wild Hunt keeps going in and out, it's sort of irrevocably tied to this seal. So they kind of can't break this connection without undoing everything and starting over. So every 20 years, the Wild Hunt comes through out of this the seal kind of weakens enough that they come through and it seals again. And then they return back that way. And there doesn't seem to be a way to undo that. But now the Wild Hunt is like definitively coming into, the human world every 20 years rather than kind of peeking through and kind of seeing glimpses of it. But otherwise, that area of the gauntlet does seem to be better secured than it was before. And it kind of resealed.
Okay.
And you get an action.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to say that in the act of creating a tomb for the Black Hand, the Nesbits uncover something that's sort of been hidden in the area in the process of kind of building and digging and doing what all that they're doing. It's like a stone tablet with inscriptions in it that seem to be wards for Marblehead, although it's not clear what the wards are protecting against. But there's a lot of kind of urgent, don't disturb this tablet. If this tablet is disturbed, terrible things will happen, that there's great protection. But basically, they have to decide whether or not to move the thing to continue their project or leave it alone. And there's a sort of protracted debate about this, but ultimately, with the encouragement of the Black Hand, they choose to remove it because of promise, protect that he can basically protect them from whatever it is better than a stone tablet could. So the stone tablet is removed from its resting place and the construction continues.
Mm-hmm.
Good. There's not like an immediate repercussion. That's something to be felt.
There's a very minor earthquake, but no one's killed. Just sort of ominous.
What's the nature of how are they interpreting these symbols? Like, what is it in a particular language? Is it just the nature of the flavor of the magic?
I'm gonna say it's I'm gonna say it's not Egyptian kind of hieroglyphics, but it's sort of pictogram type things.
Yeah. Remember, you don't have. It's interesting to give details that you want to give, but you're also always allowed to be as vague as you want to be, right?
Cool.
Next up is not Jeff. Jeff is not with us today. We probably should have mentioned that at some point. Hi, Jeff. Hopefully you're listening to this in the future.
We love you.
Because otherwise you'll be confused during the next one.
Haha. Now I'm the handsome blondie.
That's just because I'm bald.
Well, you're also a redhead.
It's true.
And now it's Ethan's turn.
Okay.
So, Ethan, your card is a Queen of Diamonds.
Oh.
The Queen of Diamonds means summer is fleeting. Discard the top 2 cards off the top of the deck and take 2 actions this week.
Whoa.
Okay.
Okay. So these are my actions, right?
Yes. So you get 2 actions. You get no card effect other than the fact that you just shortened. Okay, that's workable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking about how that affects the math, but it's totally we'll make it work. So maybe I'll show you what cards are I think that's intention. The intention is that be public knowledge, I think. So the 2 sections of summer we are losing are the Jack of Diamonds.
In order. If this is the 10, you got to reshuffle.
Oh, crud. Yeah, I think that I didn't. This is a brand new deck, and I sorted them, and I think I may not have shuffled. So I'll just do that quickly.
Although, wouldn't the Ace of Diamonds have come up first?
Might be the last one.
Might be the last one.
I might have. See, I don't remember what I did with the deck. I might have placed them in the order that the Oracle uses, just to make sure I was counting them right. And then clearly I didn't shuffle. So I'll shuffle the other seasons before we do those. But I don't know. I think this has been an interesting result.
Yeah. We'll just move on from here, though.
And the other missing one is the 8 of Diamonds. So those 2 will not be happening. There was an event that was going to. There's a project that's going to trigger.
Before that, though, can I ask what Baker's Island Light is?
It's the oldest. I think it might be the oldest continuous lighthouse in New England.
Okay.
It's just a really old lighthouse.
And it's built this year?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, the Nesbits complete the project, building the tomb.
Okay, so that's Braden's, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Anything special happen there?
With the completion of the tomb, the Black Hand goes inside to sleep until further notice.
Like a mummy do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, mummies start very powerful, and then they gradually wane until they don't got no more power and they got to sleep.
You got to plug them in again.
Sort of like the opposite of a way a vampire works in New World of Darkness.
Yeah.
So I have some ideas here. So a while back, there was a thaumaturgist who discovered that the witch huts were in a runic symbol. There was also the book, the book of the no-name book.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's this tablet. I am going to say and discover something old. Is the same thaumaturgist has found a connection between the language being used in all three of these objects. The book, the runic symbol formed by the witch huts, and the stone tablet.
So it's the thaumaturgist discovers this?
Yes, it's the same thaumaturgist, because they're vampires, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so they're immortal. The same thaumaturgist who discovered the rune shape in the witch huts has discovered this connection between the three. We didn't actually say what happened to the stone tablet. They just discarded it. But he's going to say that he's going to be the one that found the connection. And that they're in some sort of semblance of the same language.
But there's no specific clue as to what that is yet?
Correct.
Okay.
All these things are somehow connected or related or conversant with each other. Okay. And your second move?
So I guess it's been left intentionally vague, but we don't know what happened to the plesiosaur, right?
Correct.
He was taken captured, but we don't know what Jeremy Foxglove did with it. But it's been a long time. He's probably long dead now. Jeremy
We did have a really big barbecue afterwards.
Yeah, the only thing to note is that it was the completion of the project Jeremy Foxglove swore to sort of protect or rescue the community from the terror of Wenham Lake, and the implication is that was the terror of Wenham Lake, right? So,
well, he rode through the town riding it.
Right. I just mean that it could be dead, it could be tamed. There's a lot of possibilities, but probably it's no longer a threat, at least in the same way, because that was the completion of a project.
Right. That's kind of what I was asking. I am going to say, I guess I'm going to start a project in that it has now been, let's see, quite a while. Well, 63, so 91, 6, 79, so 30 years. So the project is that immediately upon, after riding the plesiosaur through the streets of Salem, it vanished, and he didn't tell anyone where it went. And a new generation of foxgloves has found out about the existence of this happen. A young generation of foxgloves have heard about this story and are now very curious as to what he did with it. And so they are trying to hunt the missing three-headed plesiosaur. And I'm going to say that's a 2-turn project.
Okay. 2 turns. All right. That completes your turn, right, Ethan?
That is it. Yeah.
Okay. That would be my turn next. My card is the 3 of diamonds. The 3 of diamonds, the choice is someone begins to address an urgent need, no matter the cost. Start a project that will alienate some monsters in the community, or someone demands that a constitution be written. What rules do they propose that anger the community?
Oh.
Someone demands. So I like this constitution idea.
Mm-hmm.
It moves in the direction of some other things that have been in process, but who should demand that a constitution be written? I think we've been getting a lot of action to the foxgloves, which I like, but it's probably more interesting now if it's somebody else. I think this push for a constitution should come uncharacteristically for Mr. Chamberlain, who comes down out of his seclusion and convenes the local supernatural community and declares that it is time for some mode of official organization beyond the informal court system that they've established. And I guess this calls for us to focus on what pisses somebody off. So Mr. Chamberlain demands, or rather, not even demands, simply issues the Constitution to the community for some inscrutable reason. This Constitution formalizes some of the stuff that's already been happening in terms of the court system and has some favorable things in terms of guaranteeing certain areas of responsibility and autonomy. There are things for the Foxgloves to like because it seems to be largely in line with their values set about officially maintaining equality and officially keeping a certain amount of distance from the humans, except that it also involves a blood tithe, which is to be paid to Mr. Chamberlain as the sort of like the constitutional monarch of this community, right?
Oh.
Not exactly like not an active king, but more like the role that monarchs play in sort of more modern constitutional monarchies, right? Where they are the official head of state and preside over certain ceremonial functions, and in theory, the government has some sort of way of answering to them, but in practice, they're quite distant. Except that they have a certain amount of power and authority that must be respected and maintained. So there is a steep blood tithe to be paid to Mr. Chamberlain each, let's say, every 3 years.
I have added a contempt token.
Is there a structure for this? Like how? Like, what is the blood tithe?
Oh, I'm not interested in spelling it out in grave detail. So something enough that it's arguments for the community, right? Like grave, yes, haha. Like enough that it sucks, right? Not just
enough to be very uncomfortable.
It's not just like slaughter a pig every 3 years, right? It's something that's demanding and arduous and maybe difficult to stomach for some people.
Also, it's just very uncomfortable if a vampire has your blood.
Yeah, that's also true.
There's
right?
things that can be done with that.
I guess there are, I mean, I know you say you're keeping it intentionally vague, but I think this kind of matters in how it's structured.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a blood tithe from the supernatural community or a blood tithe that can be provided from any source, including the mortal community?
The Constitution is for the supernatural community.
Okay.
And it prescribes responsibility for the community to supply a certain amount of human blood every 3 years.
Okay.
Enough human blood that it's not like, somebody cuts their finger and that, like, it's enough that it's a problem, right?
Okay.
The Nesbits are adding a contempt token.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say, what's the Latin for city?
Polis? No, that's Greek.
That's Greek.
Metro?
Urbs.
Urbus?
As in urban. Yes. I'm going to say that Mr. Chamberlain chooses the title for himself in his constitution of Prince in Absentia. There may be other features of that office. We'll leave that ambiguous, but that's the main thing that causes problems, at least for now. Okay. A project is completing, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the Dangerous Project. The Foxgloves and Micah Foxglove is their founder.
Becoming their totem, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so most of the emissaries returned, not all of them, and it seems to have been successful in that there is Micah Foxglove is now, bound to the Foxglove clan, I guess, as a totem. He can be communicated with. He can be called upon to provide, certain abilities and strengths. And it's presented as, the story that's told is that they found him and it was an epic quest and he was, proud of his children and willingly bestowed these gifts upon them. But there's a few holes in the story and it's being kind of quietly whispered, at least among some of the Foxgloves, that Micah is not actually has not willingly become their totem. He just is their totem. So that's where that's at.
Okay. And then lastly, I get an action, and the actions are uncover something old, or start a project, or agree on something. I think we haven't had an agreement in a little while. So I will say this scholarly thaumaturgist, the person who is the vampire who's uncovered this understanding about the book and the seal and the witches' huts, proposes to the community that now as things are becoming sort of the community is forming into a structure, right? It has a court system and now it has this constitution with sort of a titular monarch, but its purpose is still open to discussion, or at least there is not a singular established purpose. There's a community, and so the scholarly thaumaturgist proposes to the community that the purpose of the supernatural society in Salem should be to uncover and catalog its various secrets and protect them from outsiders. The thaumaturgist has been here long enough now that it considers itself part of the community. It's no longer considers itself like an immigrant in the way that it was early on. So uncover the secrets of Salem, catalog them, study them, protect them from the outside. And so now we go around and we each get to choose a faction or individual and say how they respond. They don't have to respond positively. Everyone gets to agree or narrate silence is the way that it's framed.
The Sistrins narrate silence. That's a good answer. Are awkwardly quiet about this proposal and visually uncomfortable when it's being discussed.
Mr. Chamberlain stands quietly throughout the proposal and then leaves without saying anything.
Everyone's just being quiet.
Charles Nesbitt, the current patriarch of the clan, wholeheartedly agrees, and again offers the service of his extended family.
The siren disagrees because she's kind of the only one of her kind. She's got a lot of crap to deal with, this whole like transmitting information, whether she wants to or not, and just really just sort of wants to live and let live and doesn't want to have the responsibility of like protecting anyone or digging up lost things or solving a mystery. Like she just kind of wants to get on with it. And so she is resentful of this expectation that she kind of jump on board and start, getting further involved in digging things up and protecting humans, and just leave me alone. I did enough.
Got it. That ends my turn. So now it's Braden.
Yeah.
So here is your card, Braden. Your card is the 6 of Diamonds.
Ooh.
6 of Diamonds. A project finishes early. Say how it resolves. Who proved themselves most valuable in its early completion? Or a charismatic monster harnesses the excitement and goodwill of the community. Start a new project. I think...
Yeah, what projects are currently active?
I mean, my project will be ending on your turn anyway.
Okay.
And I don't think there are any other projects outstanding right now.
Nope. So, I mean, you have two choices here. You can kind of burn your turn if you don't want to do anything with it by finishing Ethan's project half a step early, or you can just start a new project.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I actually have a good idea for that. For starting a new project. The recently mentioned Charles Nesbitt puts a whole lot of his family resources behind the foundation of the Salem Athenaeum in the interest of cataloging and, to some extent, gathering information and power of an esoteric nature. It is the Athenaeum historically was founded in 1810. It is a private library that, one can pay membership to become a part of. This is sort of the front face of like there is a public face that mortals can interact with, and it's also a means of facilitating, expeditions and other such projects. As a project, let's say they have there's sort of an inaugural project under the banner of the Athenaeum.
Mm-hmm.
What will that be? I think they're maybe going on another mission to find some more evidence throughout North America of these symbols, these pictograms. So that was the card prompt.
So just so I'm clear, this is like an expedition to the interior of the continent?
Yeah.
How long is it?
It's probably only a few people setting out, so that's a lot of ground to cover. Let's say 4 turns.
Okay.
And this isn't going to be an exhaustive search. This isn't going to be turning over every stone. This is going to be, we're going to look in a lot of places, see what we come up with.
Okay. Ethan, your the projects of the younger foxgloves who are searching for whatever became of the Terror of Wenham Lake completes.
And so after 14 years, these 4 young members of the Foxglove clan are found dead on the shores outside of basically in the Marblehead Sound there. They are found floating up on the shore, 4 of them. So the project was not successful, and they and basically because the 4 people who were doing it are now dead.
Okay. Dark. And Braden, you still get a move.
Yeah. So with the opening of the Athenaeum, a few interested scholars start migrating to the area, including one Dr. Gabriel Fell, who is a folklorist. And he seems to know some things about the supernatural.
I see. So this is a ostensibly mortal character who seems to be in on the secret.
Mm-hmm. And he's asking lots of questions.
So this is an uncover something old.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's the end of my turn. Donk.
That's back to Vin. Yeah.
What year are we at now, ish?
1812.
Yeah, that vicinity, right? Remember, we're keeping things kind of soft.
Yeah.
Until and unless we really need it to firm up for a specific
thing.
Feel free to. You can make it firm if you want, but otherwise it's sort of loose.
Mm-hmm.
And we did just touch on something firm because the Athenaeum is 1810. So the neighborhood of 1812. All right, Vin, your card is the Ace of Diamonds.
Oh. One of the smaller monsters begins to build something that will, quote, bring the humans back. What is it? How does the community react? Or one of the larger monsters begins to consume the smaller monsters. Why? How does the community react?
Yikes.
Interesting. I think you get to put your own spin on bring the humans back if you want to use that option, right?
Yeah, but I think I actually want the other one.
I thought you might.
I think it's tough for anyone to draw any direct... There's not a lot of direct evidence as to who is doing it. There's not enough to really call anyone out, but everyone sort of knows that the Black Hand is disappearing members of the community about once every couple of months.
Members of the supernatural
community.
Okay,
Yep.
right, because larger monster eats.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is this the Black Hand as a group?
No.
Or is this...
No. I think the Nesbits are, even amongst themselves, only able to speculate.
Mhm.
They are not getting a clear answer. As far as they know, he is still slumbering, but it's clear that certain doors are being opened, certain seals are being moved, and there's definitely
There's all these
trails of-
cartouches left at the crime scene.
Mhm.
It's like that. It's like the Simpsons Halloween House of Terror, where Chief Wiggum assumes that all the obviously vampire attacks are caused by a mummy, and so declares that the Egyptian wing of the Springfield Museum be destroyed, except that it's accurate.
Yeah. The Nisbets are actually the only ones who are sure that it's the Black Hand because they have access to all the evidence, and they are not going to say anything about that to anyone else.
Are they also victims? Like some of them?
No, because they don't inherently have any power
Okay,
Right,
it's
in a
all-
supernatural sense.
It's all
Yeah, I know their
with juice.
nature in the supernatural world is a little complicated, but yeah, okay.
Mhm.
You can think of them like
They're in-laws.
they're the bug eaters. They're assistants. They're
Bug eaters. Oh.
Do we have any projects?
we have one, but it won't. It's just ticking down. So now it's just gone
Okay.
from 4 to 3. So it's your move.
All right. Going to uncover something old. Folks passing by the cemetery one morning discover that the grave of one Jeremy Foxglove has been violently torn open. His body is removed and pinned to a nearby tree with just shards of the wrought iron fence that circles the cemetery. And the word fraud is carved over his head.
Wow.
Over his head in the tree?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I think that's it for me.
Okay. Mystery. All right. Casey,
Mm-hmm.
here is your card. It is the 5 of diamonds.
Okay.
So the 5 of diamonds. You have 2 choices. Attempts to finish a project end in squabble and anger. Remove a project die from the map. The project has failed. Or a monster is found dead outside the settlement. No one has confessed to the crime. Agree on something about who is guilty.
Well, since we just found a monster, I guess not dead, but desecrated within the settlement, I think I'm going to go with the failed project, which right now happens to be the Nesbits searching for further proof of this secret language of pictograms deeper within the country. So earlier than expected, about a quarter of the Nesbits that left returned. I think, Brayden, did you say how many were originally sent out?
I think I had said just like 4.
Okay, so one guy comes back, and the other three are, did not survive, but he's not really talking about what happens, but he now has, despite having been absent when all of this started, he kind of has this distrust for the Black Hand that seems to be, he's not surprised when he hears the murmurings from the Nesbits that were closest to him before he left, that he's, been kind of picking off people in the supernatural community. And he's not clarifying exactly why or what he saw, but he does start to very quietly form a group of Nesbits who are like-minded to him, that the Black Hand needs to go down.
No project finishes.
So no project finishes.
And Casey gets to move.
And I get to, okay. Let's see. I'm trying to think. So I feel like the werewolf pack has been pretty quiet for a while. Seems like they've sort of been chugging along, but they're getting a little bit discontent because there's a lot of them, and so kind of by default, a good majority of the missing supernaturals have been werewolves. Just numerically, it was going to end up that way, but they're starting to feel like, this is problematic. So the something new is that there is a new group that forms between this group of Nesbits that thinks the Black Hand needs to be destroyed and a group of werewolves that are just buy into the rumors and are tired of people knowing but not knowing and not talking about the fact that that's the person picking off their pack members. And they form a new group. Well, I need a good name for him, though. If anyone has any ideas.
The White Hand?
Nah.
The Shepherds?
The Shepherds.
The Good Shepherds?
Sure, let's go with that. They'll call themselves the Good Shepherds. And because they are protecting the sheep.
Contention.
And I think that's it for me.
Okay. Next is Ethan. Ethan, your card is the 4 of Diamonds. 4 of Diamonds means a young monster lashes out at the community. Who is it? Who does the community blame for their anger? Or a monster who lived before the occupation before the witch trials, claims that the new community is immoral. Start a project that reflects their fundamentalist call.
That's loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I wish I'd gotten this card a little later, but I'm not going to do that then. Okay. So, first of all, just I got a Salem Lyceum. What is the Salem Lyceum?
It's another, it's kind of academic institution.
Lecture. Yeah, it's like a lecture hall with sort of a science interest. It's where, Alexander Graham Bell did the first demonstration of a telephone.
I am going to say that a member of the Sistren has been converted to being a follower of the Black Hand. And she's young, and she speaks out against the actions accusing him of being the person disappearing all the supernaturals. So she lashes out at the community and says that this is a proverbial witch hunt.
Wait, so is she speaking out against the Black Hand, or
she's speaking out against the new factions? The one
Okay.
that the Good Shepherds, and literally anyone who is either covertly or overtly accusing the Black Hand of being responsible for the disappearances. And she will have been both a member of the Sistren and have joined the Nesbits.
Okay.
I'll remove my contention. One of them. There's still that Constitution one.
Are there any projects outstanding we need to pay attention
no, because
to?
we canceled the last
killed one.
project. So
All right, then you get an action.
Okay, so I've decided we've used him too much, so we're going to name him. And we are going to call him Leopold of the Cairn. That is the name of the thaumaturgist, the scholarly one.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
He proposes a new project to basically get a group of individuals representing each of the individual supernatural groups together to pool their knowledge and try to translate any one of the symbols that he has connected together. So, I mean, they've already used the book some, but I imagine the book is much more complicated than that and has a lot of mystery still in it. But they know nothing about what the sigil of the configuration of the huts is or anything about the stone tablet. Now, that's sort of start a project, but it's also sort of getting people to agree on something. So I'm amenable to whichever we think that is.
I think the defining thing is, do you think it should take more than one turn or not?
Absolutely should take more than one turn.
Then it's a project.
Okay. And we will say that is a very long project. So I'm going to say, 4 turns.
Sounds good.
This is a life work for a mortal being.
Sounds good. Okay. I'm next, right? Slightly confused by the turn order without Jeff. Okay. So my card is the 2 of diamonds. Here's what the 2 of diamonds says. A wave of paranoia sweeps through the community. Agree on something about the severity and necessity of a taboo. Or someone takes their fascination with a taboo too far. Who is it? How does the community react? I'm going to go back up to the top of our list to remind myself of the taboos because we haven't had to look at that in a while. Taboos are Gallows Hill, the Wild Hunt, the Locust on the creek not too far from Gallows Hill, and the Terror of Wenham Lake, and the 2 empty witch hunts. I think I want to do something with the Wild Hunt because I find that topic interesting. So I'm going to say that in the year of a Wild Hunt, the hunt appears as it has now several times, passing through the umbral scar at Gallows Hill, but it lingers. It haunts Salem and its environs. It doesn't leave on its usual timetable. There's much discord and fear and paranoia, as action calls for. So we're going to agree on something. The Good Shepherds, one of their representatives, whatever call him the Master of the Crook. His position is that the Wild Hunt is lingering because it is here to punish the Black Hand. The Black Hand should be pulled from his tomb and handed over to the Wild Hunt. So everybody gets to it's an agree on something. So everybody gets to pick a faction and choose how they act or don't react to that spicy proposal.
I'm gonna shock everyone. The Nesbits are opposed to this. There, that one was easy.
The Foxgloves agree, but they argue that he should be tried.
Who was proposing this again?
The Master of the Crook, the leader of the Good Shepherd faction.
Oh, okay. Dr. Fell shows up unannounced and says, "I will help you."
Oh, man.
He's so dead. So very, very dead.
Awkward.
A letter arrives at the meeting place where this conversation is being held. It is in Mr. Chamberlain's handwriting, and it just says, "If it is to be done, there must be a trial."
Okay, this is detailed enough. I'm trying to record all of the various responses. So the Nesbits disagree. the Foxgloves.
Agree, but want a trial.
Yep, Dr. Fell appears uninvited and offers to help. And Mr. Chamberlain sends a letter calling for a trial. So it's kind of ambiguous in the rules set, I think, Vin, what exactly the resolution of a make an agreement is. I think that's fair.
Yeah, there's not specifically any. It's just a position that informs how people act going forwards.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to do either less or more than I'm supposed to say, like, what is the outcome of this?
Yeah, it does not carry the guarantee of action.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gauging the temperature in the community.
No, I get that. I guess what I'm trying to say is I think this has led us to a point narratively where something should happen. Either this happens or it doesn't.
Does that mean maybe you should, for your action, propose a one-turn project of capturing and trying the Black Hand? I mean, is that...
Yeah. The thing is that what's done should be the outcome of an action or a card draw.
Mm-hmm.
Like, narratively speaking, if nothing is done, it's because everyone agreed, but no one had it in them to do it, or something like that, which is why it's ambiguous like that, because an agreement doesn't necessarily have the weight of action with it.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I'll use my turn to resolve it, I guess.
Oh, by the way, we probably should put, I guess I will put a point of contention marker for the Nesbits on this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
for sure.
I'm gonna use the action uncover something old rather than treat it as a project, because I don't think it should be long enough to span multiple turns.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna say that there is an expedition does enter the tomb of the Black Hand and successfully extracts him. There is a trial. And in the course of that trial, there's question. Go ahead. Yep.
I was just going to interject something about mummies.
Mm-hmm.
If you break into their tomb, they're going to wake up early and they're going to be crazy, blazing with power, like Ra's al Ghul fresh out of the Lazarus pit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a mess.
Okay. Let me think about the order of operations then. Since we need to have a trial anyways, there is one, but it's before he's been arrested, because why should we, why would we go to the trouble of waking him up and dragging him out if he's not going to be convicted, right? Like, it should, so,
right.
Your standard impeachment hearing.
That wasn't topical.
And now I'm sad.
Yeah, me too.
So the trial is held, and it's touch and go, because everybody seems to know that Black Hand is the cause of these problems, but all the really direct evidence, if there is any, is still held with the Nesbits, and the Good Shepherds have some to offer, but it's not really conclusive, and the judge is kind of avering about it. And then the mistress of the Wild Hunt makes an appearance at the court. So for the first time, one of the riders of the Wild Hunt sort of steps into Salem society, and this is Chanterelle, clad with nightshade, is her name, and she offers the definitive evidence that impeaches the Black Hand. Right, like they're sort of going back and forth, and then she's able to produce the clear case that actually, yes, he is responsible for these disappearances. And then there is an expedition into the tomb and a crazy combat, gnarly light show, set piece, fight. And at the end of it, both the Black Hand and the Wild Hunt are gone.
And that's your turn?
That's my turn. Let's see, is it Braden now?
Yep.
All right. Braden, your card.
Hit me.
Bust. 9 of diamonds.
Okay. Ooh. Trusting in human technology gets somebody injured or embarrassed. How? Remove an adoption. Or an elder admonishes some of the other monsters about an unseemly behavior. What does the elder say? Add a new taboo. Okay, I've actually got something that dovetails well with my own plans. So word has reached the old world of the goings-on among the Nesbits, and cousin Caroline pays a visit from the Nesbits of the British Isles. The Clan Nesbit has been sort of on the border of Scotland and England. She's arrived here with her black cat, Mordred. She's gonna stay with the Nesbits for a little while and just recuperate, see how things are going, and eventually declares the Black Hand's tomb taboo.
Yeah.
So we got the new taboo. Any projects wrapping up now?
No, I think we still don't have any projects.
No, Leopold.
Wait, we do have one.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Leopold. Yes.
4 though. That's so it's
1, 2.
two turns
So we
away.
got 2 more to go.
Okay. And let's see. Oh, well, sorry to stick to my own, but I think the project is going to be a 1-turn project.
Mm-hmm.
The Harmony Grove Cemetery. This is a promise of new direction from the Nesbit clan.
Mm-hmm.
It is a safe space for any and all supernatural creatures who need it. It is there's a place of honor reserved for Jeremy Foxglove up on a hill.
Mm-hmm.
You mean the fraud?
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait.
I mean, someone called him a fraud. I'm not saying.
Oh, that's right.
Or
His
something.
body, yeah.
Yeah. Place of honor. He still may be in a place of honor. Just
Well, in we'll say there's a memorial in honor of him.
there you go.
It may not have the remains that were exhumed, but a marker that this was a good individual. And there are some extensive tombs and tunnels underneath the cemetery. Cousin Caroline lives in a little cottage on the grounds of the cemetery with her cat, and occasionally invites people round to tea.
Is it on the map, by the way?
Yeah. Let's do a little.
Because it's a real location.
Yep.
So you go to cousin Caroline's cottage for crumpets
And cookies,
and cookies
And cat.
and cakes.
cakes, and cat.
And curses.
So there's a little tombstone there. It's just kind of bordering where the weak gauntlet was, and it's kind of right along the stream as well.
Mm.
It is right along the stream. That's the canal. Okay, and that's my turn.
Is that the end of summer?
Nope. We still have 2 more turns of summer to go.
Oh, okay.
So is it you then?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, and I'll remove my other contention token.
It's the 10.
It's a 10 of diamonds. Oh, okay, the 10 of diamonds. 10 of diamonds means conflict flares up among community members, and as a result, a project fails, or introduce a dark mystery among the members of the community. Who discovers it?
One dark mystery gone, another one formed.
Yeah. What's on our project menu at the moment?
There's the 2 of them. There's the one that I proposed, which is the breaking down of the mystery sigils, and Braden just did a 1-turn one, which would resolve this turn, which is the Harmony Grove Cemetery.
I'm not going to screw over Braden by destroying that.
Well, also it's real, so that's a little weird.
Well, it could just be a change in its function.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I know that Braden has plans for that in the long term. And I do like a dark mystery.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the Sistren has been hiking up near Wenham Lake, mostly gathering herbs and other materials. And for a second, she sees the form of something that you might describe as being like a plesiosaur, if you had that word. But it's not very substantial, and it just sort of passes like mist. And she follows the path as it goes back to town, and she keeps glimpsing it like a half-formed illusion all the way back to town. Sure is a mystery.
Okay.
Good thing about a mystery is I don't need to have an answer.
Yes, that is definitely a fun part of this exercise. All right. The Harmony Grove Cemetery project finishes, Braden?
Mm-hmm.
Does that just go like it sounds?
Pretty much. It's neutral ground burying place. Cousin Caroline buries her cat there.
Aww.
It was dead, I hope.
All you know is Cousin Caroline is a little bit sad. She said she had to bury Mordred.
All right. Now I get to do a thing. What kind of thing do I want to do? I think that after several years of, several decades at this point, of stalling and confusion and squabbling, the Sistren finally settled down to the concept of properly rebuilding their coven, through a process of filling out their numbers appropriately, doing various rituals, and filling specific roles, because it's really, they've been replacing themselves, but they haven't rebuilt the infrastructure to properly call themselves the coven that they once were. So they're going to be doing a lot of that. It's going to take, I'm going to say, 3 turns, 21 years.
Okay.
It should be noted that they are at least under the impression that this will sort of counteract the weird malaise that was lingering over their old homes. Ethan is making expressions, but I can't quite figure out what they are.
I have some thoughts about that, but I guess I when it's my turn, I'll have to ask about how if one action can counteract part of another action, like a part of a project in your action. And I'm not trying to negate it. I'm just,
we'll see what happens between now and then.
Yeah, I've literally got a project ending that might affect how that plays out, and a turn
and cards.
So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that ends Vin's turn.
So it's me.
And that means Casey.
And this is where summer ends.
This is where summer ends. So Casey, if you've been card counting, you would know that your card is the 7 of diamonds. I'm not saying you should have been card counting. I wasn't.
Yeah.
So
I wasn't either. I figured you would just tell me what card I had.
The 7 of diamonds means a monster speaks up about grievances from before the occupation, so before the witch trials. Agree on something about the old conflicts of this community, or one of the monsters threatens or alarms another. What provoked them in the most immediate sense?
Okay, I think I'm going to go with the second one. So there's been a little bit of a sense of, I guess, accomplishment or complacency. The Black Hand was destroyed with minimal loss to the community. It seemed to be mostly the Wild Hunt that suffered, and peace and safety felt more like they were being restored. but then the disappearances resume. And it's not clear exactly who's responsible, if this is someone copycatting, if this was someone responsible before that's picking it up again. But one of the sort of quasi-defunct Good Shepherd, since they don't really have anything to be shepherding anymore, but they still sort of remained a unified group, attacks or accuses the thaumaturgist of being responsible.
As a group, or this one guy we've named?
As a group, that it's their doing. They've always been, they're always kind of collecting information and slinking around, and no one ever knew really why they came to this community in the first place. And so they actually end up, the accusation becomes an altercation, and not the named thaumaturgist, but one of the other ones is actually killed during the altercation.
Okay.
So that's that.
Now my project ends. If that's your turn. Or your action. Your card. There we go.
Yeah.
And this, I guess, could tie in with that, because this all happens kind of at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So Leopold and the coalition make a revelation from the sigils. And what they've discerned is that all of these things, the book, the configuration of the huts, and the stone tablet, obviously predate the witch trials, predate the founding even of the colony in some respect or another. Either the inspiration to build the huts in that configuration, the stone tablet itself, and maybe even the book was found. They predate the establishment of the American colony, and that they are some sort of complex ward against a great ancient evil.
Okay.
And then I have an action.
Yes.
So I am going to uncover something old. So the fight that resulted in the killing of one of the thaumaturgists kind of raised an awareness that the Good Shepherds, someone's got to do something with these guys if they're just sort of floating around and causing trouble. So the Foxgloves end up offering them sort of a position as peacekeepers / investigators for the community at large, sort of serving under the auspices of the court and sort of the tenants there, as long as they willingly turn over the persons directly responsible for the fight and the death of the thaumaturgist for a trial.
Do you think that should be an agreement?
We can make that an agreement. I guess that would sort of end up being two things.
I mean, you could just put that forward as a statement from the Foxgloves that that those are the terms of this structure that they would like to do, and see how everyone reacts. Does that make sense?
Sure, that works.
And again, we've talked about how some of this stuff either happens or doesn't, regardless of agreement. So yeah, that seems like a viable thing.
Okay. So they say we're doing this, and then the community can react to it.
I'm going to say that the thaumaturgists agree. They want peace, and they want justice for their lost member, and they think that this is the right way to go about it.
I think that someone has probably brought one of those communication branches to this conversation.
Sure.
And through it, you hear the voice of the siren. I mean, you, everyone. And it's just a long sigh. Fine, do what you need to do.
The werewolf pack, right? So this is a group that's been it's lost a lot of members to these disappearances. It keeps getting other groups spun out of it, right? The Foxgloves came out of the werewolf pack. The Good Shepherds, in some sense, came out of the werewolf pack. It's over time become a mixed grouping of various were creatures, because there's no automatic primacy of werewolves in this setting.
Mhm.
And so, anyways, the were folk position is they don't trust the expansion of the court system because they don't trust the sort of urbanization and civilization trend in this society. It hasn't gone well for them, and so they withdraw entirely.
Like entirely.
Like they say, we'll have no part in this, and it's not clear if they'll have no part in this action or they'll have no part in the society going forward.
Okay.
Note that someone can theoretically speak for the Good Shepherds who have not technically agreed.
True. Good point.
And that someone would have to be Braden because we've all.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
And some of the Good Shepherds are werewolves, right?
Yeah.
That was a group formed between Nesbits and werewolves. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that when we get these mixed groupings together, it becomes a little bit ambiguous what they are, right? Especially because we keep using these two groups that have normal human lifespans.
Right.
So I think it's a little flexible, but definitely they started out with some werefolk in them.
Yeah, I think the primary tenet was you don't like the Black Hand.
Right.
Dr. Fell, on his deathbed, gives this his blessing and reveals the location of an insane armory of weapons for use against the supernatural, for use for the Good Shepherds to use. Encourages them to use them.
So here's where I'm going to draw a contempt token.
For who?
Yeah.
Doesn't need to be for anyone.
Oh, okay.
I think that generally is going to provoke contempt from a lot of different angles.
Yeah, I mean, I think it weaves in and out because I think there are members who would like it, members who would dislike it, and those, yeah.
Yeah, like there are probably a lot of people who were like, yo, did someone just give those guys a bunch of tools specifically to murder a whole bunch of different ones of us?
Yeah, right.
Well, the Nesmiths might be like, nice.
Before remembering that they too are vulnerable to murder.
But I mean, they're always vulnerable to murder.
I mean, the special weapons to kill the Nesbit is a gun.
Right.
Yeah. Or, a bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those fancy, relatively new 6-shooters.
Or, time.
Yeah. The greatest weapon of all.
That sounds like that thing happens.
Yeah.
And that's the end of summer.
That's it this week for the Chimera. Our theme music is Hoof, Heart, and Hiss by Matt Weber. You can find a link to more of Matt's work in the show notes. Our intro this week was performed by Lydia Anderson. You can find Lydia on Twitter at LydiaAnd, and you should absolutely check out her work on Greater Boston, which you can find on your podcast app or on Twitter at InGreaterBoston. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at ChimeraPod, and support the show at patreon.com/ChimeraPod. We've got some exciting stuff coming up there, including a standalone game of The Quiet Year that we just started recording. And we've also been posting Kelly's breakdowns of the various supernatural character types that we'll be using for the campaign. I think that's everything for now. We'll meet you back here in 2 weeks. And as always, thanks for listening.
From the psychographic transcript of the Lady Artemisia Melancholy.